Hi there, I'm Blackbright, broadcasting out the UK. Welcome to my channel. First time you're passing by, you're welcome to click the thumbs up, the thumbs down, and basically share, subscribe, like. Yes, so my topic today is to do with arguing. It's something that we tend to do without realizing. We don't know why we do it. We all do it. Sometimes it turns out into a full-blown war. Sometimes it can be mitigated by a discussion and you catch yourself and one of the parties tend to diffuse it. If the two of you are going at it like two cats, then it's not going to be productive. So the first thing is I wanted to pose the question, why do we argue? I think our ultimate goal is to solve a problem, but it doesn't seem to be that way when you argue. I think sometimes if a woman says to a man, if a woman thinks in her head, he's always throwing his clothes down on the floor, or he never puts down the toilet seat. That seems to be a favourite one. Or he never puts the top back on the toothpaste, or he always leaves his newspapers on the floor, or he leaves the plates in the sink. He never washes up. Whatever it is, in a woman's mind, I'm not quite sure in a man's mind, but in a woman's mind, she is notching up all of those things that frustrate her. And instead of dealing with each item at a time, she tends to make them accumulate. So what invariably happens in her head, she wants him to wash up the plates, not throw his clothes on the floor, put the tube, put the top on the toothpaste, put down the toilet seat, whatever it is, that is what she wants. But instead of saying, oh darling, do you have to drop your clothes on the floor? Oh babes, it'd be so nice if you'd wash up the plates when you're finished with them. Or it would be wonderful if you took out the garbage without me having to ask you to do it. But instead, she is so frustrated and angry, she comes out accusatory. You. Always, always, always. Never, never, never. And those three words are triggers for an argument. Now, why do arguments happen? So we know that they're meant to solve a problem. They invariably do, because of the tone, because of the environment, because of how frustrated each person is. But normally it's the battle of the egos, it's insecurity, it's because one person wants to prove their point. Sometimes it's because of stubbornness. Sometimes it's because somebody is a wind-up merchant, like narcissists. Sometimes it's merely a misunderstanding. Sometimes it's misreading the signals. Sometimes it's resentment. Sometimes it's repeating requests, what they call as nagging. Sometimes it's jealousy. Sometimes it's lack of compromise. Sometimes it's betrayal. Sometimes it's habit. Sometimes it's religion and politics, or anything you hold dear to your heart. Sometimes it's defensiveness. Sometimes it's black and white thinking. Sometimes people just argue for the sake of it. They're bored. Some people want you to stoop to their level, so they initiate an argument. Sometimes it's failed expectations. Sometimes it's just the tone you use that causes an argument. Sometimes it's the messy environment. You get so fed up of seeing the place in a mess, that can cause an argument. Sometimes it's anger. The person is angry about something else and they take it out on you. Or like I said, it's events that compound themselves and build up resentment. Sometimes it's because someone's not listening. Sometimes it's because of lack of consideration. Sometimes you have an argument because of addictions. You've taken drugs or you're on alcohol and your emotions are a bit, woohoo. Sometimes it's hormonal. Sometimes you have inadequate information. And sometimes it's simply because someone cannot see your point of view. All of those things can cause an argument. So you can imagine there are more things that can cause an argument that won't cause an argument. And you have to kind of think that what frame of mind are you in? Are you already on the edge when the other person, we'll call it your opponent, is out to attack you for something? And most arguments can be avoided if the tone is lowered and if you speak with respect and love. Some people forget who they're speaking to. They forget it's their loved ones. And instead they go into an attack mode, almost as though their loved one is their enemy. And they said there's a thin line between love and hate. And that when you're having an argument, you can see how thin that line is. So, the Bible says there's death and life in the power of the tongue. By our words we will be justified, and by our words we will be condemned. Like I said in a previous video, your words are not refundable. You can't take them back once you spat them out. If you destroyed somebody emotionally, psychologically, you can't then go back and say, I'm sorry. When you've brought up something personal about that person's past that they told you in confidence when they're feeling vulnerable, and you then throw it back in their face, you can't take that back. You can't say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. When you criticize someone's, there's always something that somebody's insecure about. When you bring that to the fore and criticize it, and that person is damaged by your criticism, you can't take it back. Some people, they argue, some people go quiet, some people are somewhere in the middle. But arguments don't need to happen. You're meant to have a discussion and you're meant to come to a resolution. But you can only have a discussion if both people are listening and allowing the other person to talk, and speaking in a way that is respectful and calm. And you know what you want your end result to be. If you want your end result to be that your partner takes the bins out on Tuesdays, you have that end in mind. Baby, the bins come out, the bins are collected on a Tuesday. I know you come in late on a Tuesday, but on your way in on Monday night, can you bring the bins in? I should have said, I know you come in late on a Monday, but could you put the bin out on your way in on a Monday night? You know, if you want me to remind you, I can. Or if you can remember, that would be great. You know, maybe you want to put a reminder on your phone. It doesn't have to be an argument. If somebody says they don't like your dress, it's the way they say it why it turns into an argument. And when they only criticize you and they never compliment you, that can become an argument. So somebody says, oh, you really look fat in that. Oh, haven't you got anything else to wear? I mean, that's insulting. That could cause an argument. Or it could cause that person to shut down if that person already has insecurities. You could say, oh, babes, that dress, you know something? You know that dress you had on the other day that was blah, blah, blah. That looked much better. That was very, very complimentary. Why don't you wear that? That one doesn't compliment you in the same way. There are ways to say what you want to say without insulting and without precipitating an argument. So what are the triggers? Normally the triggers are something a previous partner did, an ex. They might have said something or done something, and what this one happens to do something similar, and it triggers you back and you think, oh my God, here we go again. I'm not going to have this. I'm going to put my foot down. And it's the tone once again, and the anger and the resentment and whatever it is. Sometimes it's feeling attacked. You know, we all have our areas where we feel vulnerable or what we have close to. It's like if somebody was to say to me, oh, I don't believe in God. I don't believe in Christianity. Christianity is for fools. It's for idiots. Regardless of whether I believe in Christianity or not, you know, but my God is I have a personal relationship with God. So if somebody attacks that, I'm not even going to give them the time of day, because there are two things they say you shouldn't argue about or try to get some kind of rise out of somebody. And that's by discussing their religion and discussing politics. Somebody comes to me with something like that, I shut down. I am not going to defend my corner. I'm not going to defend who I believe in or what I believe in. I'm not going to justify where I am spiritually. So that will fall on deaf ears. But you'll find some people, they jump up and they, oh, you know, Jesus is a white man, or oh, you can believe in a Jesus and Mary this and that. And they just go on, regardless of whether what is what. There are some people who believe in that, and that is what keeps them going day by day. When you destroy their faith, or when you put doubt in their faith, you're not doing yourself, and you're doing yourself a disservice. You should never put a stumbling block in somebody's path. And if somebody has a belief or they have a value, you have no right to knock that value. When you're arguing about things, it should be things that are maybe something, and it doesn't even have to be an argument. It could be something like, why do you have to keep leaving your shoes in the middle of the room? It could be something similar to that. And he'll probably say, what do you mean? I don't always leave my shoes in the middle of the room. I do it sometimes. And then she goes, oh, well, whether it's sometimes or not, every time I come in, I always see your shoes in the middle of the room. It's not every time. And that's why it's not good to make generalizations. The always and the never and all of that kind of stuff. Turns into arguments, it turns into nasty arguments, and it's hiding something that's been festering, usually over a while, that you haven't spoken about. And that's on both sides. So, like I said, some arguments turn into battles, and you have to wait until one person surrenders. You know, the missiles are flying, then fling this, then fling that, you're bad doc. You know, some people, they don't know how to control themselves. When they have an argument, it starts off with as a discussion. It then escalates into an argument. It then escalates even further into, you know, people throwing stuff at each other and people getting injured and hurt and goodness knows what. It's not good. And sometimes it's just over a misunderstanding. You said, no, I didn't. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. I didn't mean it like that. Yes, you did. Otherwise, you wouldn't have said it like that. You know? So silly. And it's hiding something else, usually. So, sometimes the past gets brought in. You know, especially in some relationships, you've confided in your partner about something in your past. And they bring it up. Like, suppose you said, oh, you know, my last boyfriend, he abandoned me. And, you know, I find it really difficult to trust. The next thing you know, in an argument, the guy's saying, no wonder your last bloke abandoned you. You know, you get on people's nerves. Get on my bloody nerves. Can you imagine how that person would feel if she heard that back? Or if he heard that back? And that's what I'm saying. You know, the tongue, what you say, what you spit out, can be very, very damaging. You could actually cause that person to go into their shell and never come out. And like, when you're talking about astrological signs, we have some astrological signs that are much more sensitive than any other sign, especially the water signs: Cancer, Pisces, Scorpio. Extremely sensitive. You say that to any one of them, the only thing with a Scorpio, it's got you, mate. But the other two, Pisces, they will go on and on and on and on. And then Cancer, they're like the crabs. They go into their shell. They don't come out for months. So you have to be careful. Not everybody has got that resilience. Not everybody can deal with an attack. Just because your last fella or your last girlfriend could deal with a healthy debate, not everyone can do that. Some people, they take it personally. Some people, they don't get it. And like I said, it really depends on the words you use, the tone you use, the environment, whether what your motivations are, whether you're discussing out from a place of love or a place of resentment and guilt and jealousy and goodness knows what else. The outcome will be different. Some people just want to rub people's nose in it, you know? So, shouting down the opposition just to get your point across is non-productive. Tone can cause an argument. Some arguments are like war, like I said. Sometimes arguments start because of assumptions. You kind of assume, like you see your man on his phone, and then say, "Hold on a minute." And he goes upstairs into the bathroom. It's a toilet, and he's going toilet while he's on the phone. And you're like, why is he taking the phone up to the toilet? Must be another woman in my top though. Why he couldn't take the car down here? I bet he's not really going to the toilet. I bet he's up there talking to his woman. When he come down, who that there upon the phone? I know about him, man. I want to spar them. Well, let me see. Me not give him a phone. Me said, let me see. Me said, me not give him a phone. She gets all uppity tuppity. She try for fighting for the phone next time. In push past her, she dropped down the stairs. I mean, people have arguments for the most random things. And that time is really his friend he's talking to. You know what I mean? But assumptions. So, normally you're arguing about a shared problem, something that affects both of you. But when you're arguing, you don't really see it that way. You kind of see it as it's one person because of the way it's put over. It almost seems as though it only benefits the person who's putting it over. It doesn't benefit the other person. But it can benefit. You know, when two people talk nicely and respectfully to each other and let each other know their wants, their needs, what they don't like and what they do like, you can have a really productive relationship. That is, if both parties are healthy. If you're arguing, or even if you have a even light discussion with somebody who's got issues, someone who's overly sensitive, somebody who cannot stand criticism at all, then that is going to cause a problem. But in a healthy relationship between two individuals, you should be able to say to one person, look, I don't like it when you do that. I really don't. And the other person will say, oh, okay then, babes. I didn't realise that. I'll change it. And you can actually build on a relationship. You can get your points across and build to make sure that that relation is healthy and it's going in the direction that you both want. But if you're going down the direction where, you know, one of you is sensitive, the other one is bullyish, and it comes over wrong, the relationship can deteriorate. That is why compatibility is so important. If you are arguing with somebody who's not compatible with you, that relationship will go downhill. Sometimes you'll have one argument, sometimes you'll have two arguments, but then if it keeps on happening, that person's just going to say, you know what, I can't deal with this. I can't deal with a headache. I just want peace of mind. And sometimes people just steal your joy when they have an argument, especially if I'm happy. And then somebody comes up with some petty discussion and tries to rile me into an argument. You know, I just think they're trying to steal my joy. They don't like to see me happy. You do have people who are like that. If you're too happy, they'll have to find something to upset you. And some people are unyielding, you know, they go on and they antagonize. It's really, really, really irritating. So we have to remember that with everybody, there comes some emotional baggage, whether it's broken hearts from previous relationships, whether it's a more serious trauma like abuse as a child, whether it's to do with abandonment, neglect, whether it's to do with betrayal, somebody went off with someone else, whatever it is, each individual comes into a relationship with their baggage, some more than others. And so when you're interacting and when you're discussing subjects, you need to gauge that person. You should know or try to learn early on what are the triggers, what kind of things upset you. I mean, you can even say that, what kind of things upset you, babes, and she might say A, B, C, D, and E, and she might say likewise, what kind of things upset you. You could actually try and avoid that or mitigate against it from the beginning by, especially in new relationships. I mean, in old relationships, you probably know what's going to tick someone off. But like I said, depending on how resilient the individual is and depending on how strong they are to criticism. Some people, you can criticize them and cuss them until the cows come home and it's like water off a duck's back. They don't take offense at all. But just because you do it to a couple of people doesn't mean you can do it to everyone. Some people say, I saw me steer. I'm not a hypocrite. I have to talk my mind. Me not sweet it up. Me have to say it this way. So when I say, it's a dirty, what's it not? You is this and you is that. Go wash your jaws. You ugly this and you ugly that. It's not necessary. You might be able to get away with it with some people. With some other people, depending on their upbringing, it could be damaging. It's not necessary. What is the point of the argument? Have that at the forefront before you even approach the person who you want to have that discussion with. So you don't go off course. And you keep that point in mind. Like I said, if it's something like you've seen them, you found out that they're smoking and they're hiding it from you. Instead of going in there all guns blazing, I found some cigarettes, I found 40 fags in the drawer. I thought you said you weren't smoking. And then it's like, what are you going through my bloody drawers for? Oh, well, I was looking for this. Well, you've got no business, blah. And it turns out into a full-scale row. Well, because he's being defensive, because he's realised that she's found out that he's lying. She's found out that he's lying, when it could be tackled a different way. If he's hiding his cigarettes, it's because he doesn't want you to know. So you could approach it in a different way. Babes, I noticed that, how are you finding your, well, don't want to accuse. So how are you finding your smoking? Is it difficult? Have you been able to cut down completely, or do you find that you still need to have a cigarette every now and then? How is it happening? I mean, that way it's non-accusatory. And he can say, something, I have been trying, but I'm really finding it difficult. I still have to have one or two every now and then. And then he might even say, you know what, babes, I even keep a box in the drawer so that when I do get an urge, I just take one out. And you haven't got a full-blown row. But it depends on your approach and how your tone and what you're saying and how you're saying it. So what else is there? Is it important for someone? Is it important for you that you're right. That's another thing that causes an argument. The person needs to be right. So, these people who must have the last word. Even if you say that one little thing, they have to come back with something else. And those people that always have to be right, they don't stop until in the end you say, all right then, whatever you say, and they feel better and then they shut up. But a lot of times that is what it is. That's what it's about. It's ego. Fragile egos, which of course, where does it come from? Insecurity. If you have to get people to say that you are right, if you have to stick to your point, if you can't let up, if you can't compromise, there are insecurity issues and they need to be addressed. So, solution. How do we avoid arguments? Summary. Well, some arguments are healthy. Like I said, a discussion, debate, argument. I mean, sometimes when you're thinking about academics, they use the word argument to talk about all the different viewpoints that people have. So we're not talking about those arguments. We're talking about arguments within relationships and friendships and whatever. So some are healthy, depending on how far they go, depending how the result comes out, and depending on how what the outcome is. But so the first thing is you listen to what the other person is saying. You think about what you're going to say. You level your tone, nice mellow tone. You'd be surprised what a nice mellow tone does for another person. It's so calming. Do not be accusatory. Do not make generalizations. There's you always, or you never remember my birthday. And he might have remembered it once in 10 years, but he did remember it once. And it nullifies your accusation. So, and that's another bugbear for a lot of people. Not remembering anniversaries, not remembering birthdays. That causes a lot of arguments. Try remember. Put it down somewhere. With phones today, you can set an alarm. Annual alarm, 6 months alarm, any alarm you want. Don't forget your girlfriend's birthday. Don't forget, well, even men. Men are just as sensitive about you forgetting their birthdays. They go on like it's no big thing, but they're just as sensitive. So try not to forget birthdays of the ones you claim are important to you. Okay? You don't have to go all out. Nobody needs to go out any big presents. You can do something that you both enjoy. And when you're thinking about the coronavirus, sometimes if you're all on lockdown, you have to learn to be creative. So you can make a beautiful cake. You can put a photograph of yourself on it. You can do all kinds of stuff. Make it magical. Glass of champagne. Hey, I found some rhubarb and tell you what it was called. Rhubarb and ginger, pink gin prosecco, or something like that. It's supposed to be like 11.9% proof. I'm like, bloody hell. But why I'm bringing that up, I mean, you can even have a bottle of that. Put a bottle of that on the table, cut up some cheese, get a little packet of strawberries. Doesn't have to be anything flash. A lot of times people deliberately forget birthdays because men kind of put stress on themselves and think that they have to get something major. If you've picked up a high maintenance woman, then that's your problem. But most women will just be happy, number one, that you remembered, and number two, that you've done something special and you've done it yourself. You ain't got anyone else to do it. So, and use endearments when you're having this discussion or heated debate. Use endearments. Okay, babe, I hear you, but I didn't realise you were saying that, darling. How nice does that sound? You're shouting, honey. Do you want to just lower your voice a little bit? Honey, you don't have to talk so loud. come on, sweetheart. Hush. Hush, baby. So you can do lots of things to, bring it down a notch. And remember that the person you're talking to is somebody who is special to you. If they weren't, you wouldn't care about what they're doing or how they're doing it. So you obviously care about the person. So when you care about the person, just remember, speak with respect and speak speak with love. Okay, discussion versus an argument. If they are antagonistic, provocative, judgmental, critical, peppy, and you can see that it's coming from not such a nice place, like if you're in a relationship with a narcissist, those arguments are not easy to monitor. That you can't really deal with them in the way I'm suggesting. It's best to go quiet. If you're in a narcissistic relationship and they're triggering an argument or propelling you into an argument, just go quiet. Narcissists hate silence, especially when it's you precipitating the silence and not them. So there's different strokes for different folks. And make sure it's, what are you fighting over? Is it an opinion or is it a fact? Try to determine what it is. Okay, and don't let anybody steal your joy, peace of mind. Train your mind to be stronger than your emotions so that you don't react, because it's reaction that often causes an argument. Discussion can start off one way, or a debate, and it ends up something another way, just because we haven't trained our minds to manage our emotions. And I think that's enough for now. Bye-bye.